It's 27 degrees in Calabar, the Cross River State capital. Yes, we're starting from there this morning. That's where we're going there. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maupe Ogunyusuf.
Well, it's not too different from Lagos, and I believe it's not so bad right there in Abuja. Well, maybe I'm just prophesying. But Amaya Makine, good morning and welcome. So, Marco, please, take us on that trip to Calabar.
We all could do with a bit of prophecy, especially positive prophecy, Ayo. I mean, everyone's looking forward to something better. But this is what we have for you this morning, and it's certainly something gorgeous and glorious from the heart of Cross River State, Calabar. You can see right there that remarkable roundabout which you come across when you get into the city. And that's the city gate. Yes, Calabar has had those posts right there signifying your entrance into the city. And one of the things that immediately hits you when you enter Calabar by road is just how green the city is, how green and how clean the city is. You know, sometimes you have to ask, why do people, fancy the big cities like Lagos, Abuja? If there were jobs, you have places that can provide sources of income, I bet you a lot of people, would want to also congregate in places like this. Some people will say maybe that might rob them of the greenery and the allure that they have. But, so far so good. Calabar, a very old city, has managed to maintain its charm through the years, from, colonial years, post-colonial years, and now that we're in this Fourth Republic, Calabar somehow continues to maintain its charm. And we've decided to bring a bit of that to you this morning, and I hope you can see it. Ayo.
When you talk about the old colonial era, many people don't know that Calabar City was capital of southern Nigeria until, I think, 1906. So the reputation that Calabar City has as a commercial city or commercial center of sorts back then should not be undermined by anyone. For some time, it was reputed as a capital city of the southern part of Nigeria before that was moved to Lagos, subsequently. But there is something that many people, Calabar, the Cross River State government has tried as much as possible to position Calabar City as for some time. Over the years, the attempt had always been that Calabar will be positioned as the capital, the tourism capital of Nigeria. Perhaps, of course, because of some of the initiatives that were started by the several initiatives of the administration of Donald Duke as governor between 1999 and 2007. Of course, many of us will remember that the city was reputed at that time to be the cleanest and most environmental friendly city in Nigeria. I'm always talking about sustainability, how we are able to sustain whatever it is that we have. What you see on your screen is the city of Calabar, and it should be celebrated. It's a beauty. Pretty much like what we had yesterday, except that without the sun. The skyline is indeed something therapeutic. And even though Calabar is in south Nigeria, one is wondering what a beauty it is, or are you surprised? Take it in, if you will.
Indeed, a hidden gem in the south of the country. That's what Calabar is. And I can tell you that just looking at those pictures, it only brings back very pleasant memories. If you haven't been, please make sure that Calabar is on your list of places to go to in this country. One of the places that you must see, one of the places that God has given to us, which you must feast your eyes on. But talking about gems in the south of the country, when we come back down to earth, we're going to River State this morning, the Garden City. The Garden City is Port Harcourt. It's supposed to be the Garden City, but of late it does appear that it's been the city of unrest. The question is why? why wouldn't the politicians let the city be? That's the big question. But yesterday, another day in the, will I say, in the unfolding crisis that has now become the, the situation in Rivers State. And we saw quite a number of, will I say, incidences yesterday. The Rivers State House of Assembly sat, they had their own sit-in, but we also saw the governor of the state try to visit the Rivers State House of Assembly to, place a budget before them, so we're told. But the gates were locked, so he was prevented from entering. And our correspondent who was on the ground there said that it looked like the people who were on the inside were oblivious to the governor wanting to, enter. And that throughout the sitting that happened yesterday, there was not a mention of the fact that the governor had tried to come in. The governor briefed pressmen after his prevention. But let me not speak too much. I think that we can play you that report, capturing all that transpired yesterday, and then we'll come back and have a conversation. Let's take a look.
A stillness cloaks the Rivers Assembly grounds as the lawmakers prepare for today's plenary. 11 a.m., calmness makes way for a visible bustle. Assembly security personnel brace themselves from within. The gates are locked as the governor's approach to the gates is heralded by his convoy's sirens. Governor Fubara meets a closed gate as he arrives the assembly complex.
All right, okay. There are no security men. Nobody to open the gate. They left. I'm here myself this morning with members of the few members of the Assembly Council to comply with the Supreme Court judgment. Before my arrival, I've already made several attempts by phone call to reach the Speaker and other members. I also did a letter personally which was transmitted to the Honorable Speaker for this particular invitation. But it's unfortunate that at the gates, you can see that the place is completely sealed and there's no sign that anything is going to happen today. The reason why we're doing this, I've always said it, is the interests of our people, which is the most important thing. Well, I don't think there's anything to worry about. Maybe they're working on their letter. I expect to hear from them maybe after this hour.
About an hour and 40 minutes after the governor leaves, the Speaker walks into the chamber and seating commences. The governor's visit is not the focus, however. Instead, the member representing Okrika, Linda Stewart, tables a motion asking the EFCC and ICPC to investigate the RISEC chairman.
Condemn the refusal of the chairman of the commission and some commissioners to subject themselves to investigation by the House. 3. Urge the House to invite the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to investigate the chairman and the commission.
The motion gains assembly backing. Speaker Amewule condemns the RISEC chairman's actions and asks anti-graft agencies to investigate RISEC's finances from January 2024 till date.
It has become very necessary for this House to invite the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to come and assist the Rivers State House of Assembly in pursuit of our investigative powers.
Throughout the proceedings, the governor's visit is unmentioned, with the Assembly proceeding with 3 bills instead. Today again marks another day of uncertainty and the political crisis that Rivers State continues to grapple with. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Well, that was how it went down yesterday at the River State House of Assembly, and also in the state with the governor trying to, visit the House to submit the budget. But we'll take a break now. We'll come back to discuss precisely what the way forward should be, given also the president's intervention, but also given where the minister of the FCT, who is also an integral part of what is happening in the state, where he seems to stand, given the interview that he granted yesterday. In just a moment, please stay with us. Right Honorable Ikwinye Owaji Ibani, former Speaker of the River State House of Assembly, joins us this morning now to take a look at some of the issues that have now transpired in the River State, in River State in general. I don't want to say the House of Assembly. Good morning, Right Honorable former Speaker. We have to thank you so much for staying with us this morning.
Thank you for having me as former Speaker, River State House of Assembly, and of course, a long-time serving legislator of River State extraction. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, as somebody who is vastly experienced in terms of how the processes work in the River State House of Assembly, and as somebody who is also invested in the politics of your state, can you give us your own first overview of what exactly has been transpiring, before now, the Supreme Court judgment, the reactions to the Supreme Court judgment, and what transpired yesterday?
Well, first and foremost, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity, extending an invite for me to appear on your program, Sunrise, this morning. Let me say this, that I will speak and educate people on the basis of foundational knowledge of what I know about legislation, what I know, what philosophers have said about democracy, and how we, each and every one of us, can assist democracy to thrive in Nigeria. First and foremost, let me tell you, and let me tell viewers, that as a legislator, I have had knowledge of the system theory, where the interface of institutions of state and, of course, democratic institutions will interface with the political actors and participants to generate policies that affect the people in good faith, not in bad faith. In the circumstance, therefore, having laid this foundation, it is my expectation that politicians who practice politics in River State should be able to know the ground and the basis for which they are elected into office. That the high point of it all is the people. Anything that takes away the happiness of the people does not serve or seek the values and norms of democracy. That's what you find today. For you, you have asked me to give an overview of what transpired from the Supreme Court judgment up to what happened yesterday at the River State House of Assembly gate. Not inside the River State House of Assembly premises anywhere. Because in legislation, you can only give account of what happened within the precinct of a legislature and not outside the precinct of a legislature. I thank the Supreme Court for the judgment, for defending the values and norms of democracy in Nigeria. Otherwise, democracy is impaired, especially at the subnational level like River State. When demagogues ascend the throne of democracy, that is what you find. You can see that when assassins of democracy are elected anywhere in the world to assume the throne of democracy, democracy is impaired. Today, the issue we are handling didn't start today. It was generated from a source like a tropical storm, a tornado that was building, and it has a course, a trajectory that it has followed. What you are finding today in River State is the landfall of the tropical storm that gathered 2 years ago. So what you will find, which you cannot even stop as a journalist, is that the tropical storm generated somewhere from a source. It has its origin. What you are finding today are the features, the manifestations the landfall of the tropical storm that started almost 2 years ago. So for me, it is not new, but I want to educate and advise our people that they should allow the people of Rivers State to benefit from their pain, from their suffering, having voted people into power to oversee their affairs, to spend their money. If I want to lay a little foundation, if you give me the time to do so, you know that David Einstein says that politics is the authoritative allocation of value. When that authority is given to you to allocate value, you have to allocate the value in the interest of the people, in the interest of the state, and of course, the institutions which you seek or you serve to protect. So for me, what happened yesterday, I have asked questions because the legislature, as I know, has what it calls legislative calendar. What is a legislative calendar? A legislative calendar is a timetable, a framework that the legislature in every legislative year will set for itself when to go on recess, when to sit, when to reconvene under emergency situation. All these things put together form what we refer to as the legislative calendar. For me, today I would ask, as one interviewing me, do you have the legislative calendar of the Rivers State House of Assembly? Does the governor have the legislative calendar of the Rivers State House of Assembly? That is where interaction behind the scene comes in. What happened yesterday, nobody should treat it in isolation. It should be taken holistically. It didn't just happen because it was to happen yesterday. It started from somewhere. So if you find what happened yesterday in analysis, you should not take it in isolation. If you take it in isolation, you will not be able to get the answer. Therefore, it is my hope as a former legislator, as one who sat for almost 8 years on the throne as Speaker, Rivers State House of Assembly, having sat there, interfaced with the governor who succeeded very well as governor of Rivers State in terms of infrastructure, in terms of capacity building and others, and was adjudged even beyond the shores of Nigeria that it did well. You can find out, if you go historically, you find out that as Speaker, I did not for one day had issue with Governor Yesomeze one weekend, who now is the Honorable Minister of State, Federal Capital Territory. And that was why the people had development. That's why today, if you come to Port Harcourt, you can see so many bridges, flyover interchanges that are being painted blue and white. If they were not there, if there was no peace, of course, the people of Rivers State and those who do business, those who come in through the airport and through the road transportation network wouldn't have been enjoying what they are enjoying today. So it is my advice that when you are elected into a position of trust and authority, your personal interest should take the background while the interest of the people should take the foreground. This is what I know. And I know that what happened yesterday, I've been asking questions. Was there a transmission? Was there an exchange of correspondence between the Speaker and the Governor of Rivers State? If there was none, and of course, the answer is known to you, your guess is as good as mine. Because you can't, if you don't know the legislative calendar of the legislature, a governor or a president cannot just walk to the National Assembly, or in this case, a subnational legislature, to present budget. The process that will lead to that is the exchange that goes on behind the scene to ensure that the governor comes and budget is presented in the interest of the people.
Claire, I mean, just that statement which you made now, I mean, clearly it does appear that you are taking the side of the Rivers State House of Assembly in this dispute. But some people will say that in this matter, the Rivers State House of Assembly had invited the governor to come and submit the budget. They had given an ultimatum to the governor, 48 hours it was that they said, and they said if he didn't come within that period that they were going to go on recess. Clearly they haven't gone on recess, and clearly they're still expecting the budget to be presented to the governor, I beg your pardon, to the House of Assembly. So it's unclear, but what we know is that it does appear that a letter from the governor was said to have made the rounds yesterday. The governor himself granted an interview saying that he tried to reach the speaker to, negotiate or to say that he was going to come and give this budget. even if, you know, there was no, there was no communication in that regard, would you say that this is the best way to treat an executive governor of the state?
You see, your question, you are becoming emotional. The question you ask me is too emotionally based. You look at institutions, the rule of law, and how they function in a democracy. You have what is called checks and balances. You have what is called separation of powers. Philosophers who brought about these things to ensure that democracy worked didn't become emotional in expounding or propounding these theories. It is not the issue. The issue is not about a particular person. It's about the institution. The institution of the legislature is the first port of call in every democracy. And for God's sake, they should be treated in that manner. Even though they see them as those who are also part of the wretched of the earth. But legislation means a lot when you are doing it for the people and when it comes to democracy. A governor, whether in Rivers State or elsewhere, cannot just drive down to an assembly to say you want to present a budget. There must be exchanges in terms of the appropriation bill that you are sending or you are intending to present before an assembly. Was there such exchange or communication in terms of the appropriation bill that you are coming? I do not think in any material particular that any member, because right from yesterday when I saw the news, I had to call them, find out, did the governor present or send any advance copy of the appropriation bill that he sought to present yesterday? They said none, that they don't have such copy. Secondly, I asked if there was a formal letter, formal correspondence from the governor of Rivers State to the speaker, intimating him of his coming to present such. If there is anything like that and the speaker turned down, that is the point. You begin to ask some of these questions. I asked for acknowledgement copy of such correspondence. They said there was nothing like that. I have operated as speaker from 2015 to 2023. The governor of Rivers State, even when I went to him to inform him when Nelson Wike, the Honorable Minister of Federal Capital Territory, was governor, when I went to him to come and look at the state of assembly quarters, the members' quarters, for him to come, he had to write to me. He had to call me to inform me that he will be visiting the quarters of Rivers State House of Assembly. I will now put the members on notice to tell them that the executive governor of Rivers State was coming. He couldn't have driven down there to say that he wants to come and inspect, knowing that it's a different institution headed by a different official of government. So what I am saying here is, I'm not looking at it from a biased point of view. I'm looking at it as a legislator and one who knows the dynamics. You see, it is not everything.
Just a moment, right, Honorable Ibadi. I just want to quickly chip this in. First, are you saying that this is a lack of respect amongst the three arms, one? And then two, some people will say that the House of Assembly is supposed to be the people's place, and that at any time, anyone should be able to walk in there. It doesn't appear that the Rivers State House of Assembly is currently operating an open door policy. Is it?
The House of Assembly is a major hope of the people in a democracy. Anybody that finds it difficult to have access to a legislator who represents him or her maybe should be schooled in what is right or what he should be able to know his right or his wrong. Legislators are more accessible than any other official serving in the other two arms of government. I can tell you this, that in the legislator's house, our constituents walk in freely. Legislators' office, they walk in freely. Their constituency offices, they walk in freely to tell them their needs and what they demand of them. And I know it has not changed. This is part of our democracy. This is what I know. But that for a governor, you know there is condition precedent. Let us not shy away from these things. Because if you shy away, even the question you are throwing or you are asking me will not be complete. There was a condition precedent. In Rivers State, what if I want me to score Rivers State, the present government? We have used 2 years to quarrel. 2 years to quarrel. That is our scorecard. So if we have used 2 years to quarrel, and now you want to now do it for the people, you want to now bring about development, because you have brought about quarrel for 2 years. Now you want to bring about development. You should not, there is no straitjacket rule. You must be able, as a politician, to ensure that you play your own part very well. You know, this world of social media, everything, people who want to depend on social media. Social media does not work in legislation. In legislation, because you are making law that will either man or make society, you have to be extremely careful. If you are not careful, you bring about bad law. In classification of law or legislation, there are two
The pulse of the people. But Honorable Speaker, I'm afraid that we are totally out of time.
If you are not careful, you make a bad law.
I'm so sorry. We're totally out of time. There's only so much that we can take. I'm hoping that we will be able to bring you on at another time. But we have to thank you for speaking with us this morning. Right Honorable Ikunye Owajibani is a former Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, having served from 2015 to 2023. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. No time. You can take me. I want to take another time on this issue because it is pertinent that we grow our democracy, that people like Padensaya, Rawane, Fahemi fought for. Those who are in position now, most of them don't know that people fought for democracy. We should be able to grow this democracy so that we don't kill. Because this is one of the ways democracy can die. If you allow assassins, demagogues to occupy public office in a democratic setting, of course, they attack legislative institutions, the same institutions that defended them, the same institutions that legitimized them.
Thank you most kindly. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Democracy will die in Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you too. Well, we also have joining us in the studios this morning, Mr. Laolu Akonde. You have heard the viewpoint of Mr. Ibaji there, you know, given his own viewpoint as a former legislator and somebody who served as the Speaker. And we're watching as the latest in the long list of what has happened in Rivers State. We also saw the former governor and right now the Minister of the FCT granting a media parley yesterday. And the biggest highlight was that, you know, it's not a big deal. The heavens will not fall if the governor is impeached. Do you think that what is happening in Rivers State is, you know, politicians setting the grounds for the impeachment of the governor?
Well, I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be difficult to make that conclusion that, you know, it seems to be going in that direction, because when you look at all the needless dramas that we have been witnessing, you know that there's probably something that they are trying to get to, and I think both sides, you know, they are playing almost equal role in this drama, which is quite, you know, has little or no benefit to the people of Rivers State. The State Assembly said they gave the governor 48 hours, made a public show of that. That was in bad taste. The governor himself, you know, drove to the assembly. He must know that he's not going to be able to speak on that day like that. You don't have a principal, you know, go out without knowing what is going to happen, because there's what is called advanced party. Advanced party, yeah. Yeah. So both of them are playing games. The governor is playing games. The speaker and the house, they are playing games. The minister for FCT is the greatest game player. I even said it yesterday. All of this is just game. And it's just sad, you know, to the last point that the former speaker said, you know, some people fought for this democracy, you know, and to have all this kind of melodrama is very irresponsible, and it's a sad commentary on the kind of people that have just taken position in our country.
What you have to do is, because yesterday something struck me. Two things, as a matter of fact, struck me. A day before yesterday, the Pandef had visited the president, and the president had told them to tell the governor to tow the path of peace. Shortly after, I mean, the following day, the president himself was intervening in a matter in his own home state,
right.
Lagos State,
yes.
Where the House of Assembly also had some problems. And he said that what he was doing was trying, in fact, in the meeting he held, no cameras were allowed. We're just, people were just, what transpired was described to journalists.
Yes.
We didn't, and then pictures were taken.
Yeah.
Contrast that with what is currently happening in the Rivers State House of Assembly, where some members are not present. I mean, some members had formed themselves into, an assembly by themselves, and had also, some other members had been excommunicated by virtue of the allegation that they had defected. The Supreme Court says there's no evidence to that defection. But right now, it will seem that the majority is now currently having their way. And it does appear that the lines of divisions between them and the executive is getting wider and wider.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is playing in your own mind. Some people are playing to build. Some other people do appear that they're playing to divide. Or must it divide first before it comes together? How is that working?
Well, because at least in the case of Rivers, what is clear is that there is no common interest, anymore. And the common interest is what we are supposed to have, which is the interest of the people of Rivers State. That is not involved. I mean, nobody is showing that. Even the governor is not showing sufficient public interest. The minister is not showing any public interest, as a matter of fact, because he even opened an attack on the Jaws, yesterday, which was completely needless. I don't know the people that advise on Wiki, and then the people in the assembly too. They're also playing games. Yesterday, the governor wanted to come. The governor said he spoke to the speaker, or he tried to read the speaker. The door was locked. And then you guys still held the meeting on that same day. It just shows that everybody is just playing games, and it is so heart-rending. Talking about the president. One of the problems about what happened in Rivers State is that the president had a meeting with with both parties, the Wike faction and the governor's faction, and they signed an agreement. And one of the agreement was that they should withdraw their cases in court. It turns out from what we had that some of the cases were withdrawn, some were not withdrawn. And the case that has now gone to the Supreme Court, for which we are now seeing what happened, apparently was one of the cases that should have been withdrawn, but wasn't withdrawn. Fubara withdrew his own defense, which was a very foolish thing to do. Those who went to court did not withdraw the thing. And so if you go and check the public record, it shows clearly that there was no defense in the Federal High Court. So you see a lot of very careless, attitude and all kinds of games that shows you that some of the people that are leading us, you just wonder, how did we get here as a people? How did we get to this point where all this kind of chicanery is what is having sway? But if you compare what happened in Lagos, the people in Lagos have settled. You think they have. We saw all of them in a group photo. Yes, we didn't know what they said. An unnamed source came and told us that everything is now fine. But guess what? There was a group photo. All of them were there. They were smiling. Maybe we will hear more. But they settled their problem. Now, there are all kinds of insinuations also, but they settled it. That's the kind of thing that we also need in Rivers State. Let Jason Wike also lead, just like the president has led. Let him lead. Let him find a way to bring everybody together. Find some kind of consensus so that the progress of the people of Rivers State can be sorted out.
Ayo.
Thank you, Maokwe. One of the issues I was hoping that we would raise with the former Speaker of the House, Mr. Konde, is that, there is a letter, which was addressed on the 11th, that the presentation would happen on the 12th, and today is 13. So I was actually hoping that the former speaker would speak to the process. Do you think in any way that the governor, Governor Fubara, breached any process in getting the assembly to have an interface with them? He said he's tried to reach them on phone, and that's what we have. It's all politics, it's all games, just as you said, but the lives of people are involved, Mr. Akondi. Can you hear me,
well,
Mr. Akondi?
Ayo, we lost you for most of it, but he just said the lives of the people are involved. I mean, at least I caught that last part. It's all politics, it's all games, but the lives of the people are involved.
Yeah, of course, which is the reason why all of these people are in government, whether they were elected or they were appointed, whatever it is because of the lives of the people. And that's why we're saying that, look, they should find a way to resolve the matter. In the case of Rivers State, Supreme Court has said, look, this is what we recognize. Those guys are the assembly. Go and deal with them. Let the governor go and do what he needs to do. Let the assembly also understand that he is the governor and they have to work together. Let them reduce the tension. I mean, the people of Rivers State don't benefit from the tension, and I don't think it has to get to the point of having to threaten the governor, publicly. It's not decent. It's still the governor. And then the governor too should stop all this show. If you look at his video yesterday when they went to the assembly, he had already prepared what was going to happen. They already had a mic for him to speak. Come on. I mean, we are not kids. We understand this game, and it is irresponsible on the part of all of them to be treating the time and the resources of River State this way.
But in the same vein, of course, Markwe raised what happened in the Lagos house with you. For me, all of this, at the end of the day, I don't know how they affect the price of tomatoes in the market, how they affect the price of fuel, and all of that. How do you see the issues between the governor, the executive arm of government, and the state legislature affecting the lives and livelihood of the people? Maybe that perspective will help people to know how important it is and how we should address them as quickly as possible.
So, for instance, the Supreme Court has said that the governor should present that can be made until
well, I know that
in terms of health, higher education, they can't do a thing without the budgets being approved by the House. So that is one clear example of why it is important for all of these guys to get along. Cut the losses. Enough has been lost already. The former speaker who just spoke, ahead of me, did say that almost 2 years have been wasted in Rivers State. So I guess everybody should just sit up. And we are asking Mr. Wike, is the head of all of this thing, and he is the major cause in all of this thing. He is the one that we are going to have to call out the most, because if he decides today, if Nyesom Wike decides today that there will be peace and progress and stability in Rivers State, guess what? It's going to happen. Because if he takes his position as a leader for everybody, this can happen. This is what the president did in Lagos. And that's what we want him to do in Rivers.
Who do you think has the authority, the moral authority? Because in this instance now, when the president spoke to Pandef, he asked them to, tell the governor to stoop to conquer. That was what he told the to Pandef leaders, meaning that he thinks that the role right now is for Fubara. But for people who think that, the president might be partial because, of course, the minister of the FCT is in his cabinet.
Yeah.
Who else do you think could be neutral enough in this matter to call both parties together and say you need to make peace?
I think thank you for that question. We also need to tell the president that he is perceived to be partial because calling out only Fubara, without calling Wike is partial, Mr. President. I mean, you have to call out Mr. Wike. You are the president. You are the #1 citizen in this country. And we all regard you and we respect you. But you cannot call out Fubara without calling out Wike. Both of them have to be equally held responsible. As a matter of fact, because Wike is the godfather, you have to call out Wike even much more, because Wike has the capacity to talk to those legislators, and if Wike and Fubara get together, the matter will be solved. So, Mr. President, please don't just call Fubara. That's not fair. Call Wike also to order. I mean, look at the press conference. I mean, Wike was almost getting up. He was even going to do so bad to you. I was afraid maybe he was going to start, getting up from his seat. He's so very, very inappropriate. And he said some very ridiculous things about the judiciary. He was talking about bribery on national television, that people were paying judges. Mr. President, you cannot ignore all of this nonsense. Fubara should be called out. You have done that, but you need to call Wike also to order.
Well, I think it's a fine place to leave it. I don't know if Mr. President will hear you, but I hope he does and does something about it, because really what people want is peace in River State and the development of the state. Aula Kondi, we have to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. We'll be changing gears shortly, and we'll be talking about tax, especially if you live in the FCT. This concerns you, so you might want to stay tuned. Please stay with us. Indeed, I did say that we're changing gears now to revenue matters right here in the FCT. And we're being joined by the acting executive chairman of the FCT Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Michael Ango. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming. Well, we know that last year you were able to generate over 250 billion naira. You exceeded the target that the FCT IRS set for itself. Or who sets your target for you?
The FCT administration sets the target.
Okay, so you were able to exceed the target that was set for you by the FCT administration. But tell us, I mean, how does the FCT IRS, function, given that the FIRS, I mean, the name is about to change now, the FIRS is also domiciled right here in the FCT?
All right, thank you very much. So very easy to understand. The FIRS is the revenue administrator, or tax administrator, if you will, for the federal government. The FCTIRS is the tax or revenue administrator for the FCT administration. So as you're aware, this FCT is the Federal Capital Territory. So the FIRS is for the federal, we are for the FCT, just like you would have an IRS in the state, an internal revenue for the state. So our functions are very clearly demarcated. We collect taxes, revenue from residents in the FCT. So essentially personal income tax from individuals working or living in Abuja, other taxes and levies due to the FCT administration. So our jurisdiction is very clearly demarcated, but of course we have a lot of synergy with the FIRS, because what the FIRS does also in a way impacts what we do here, but only within this jurisdiction of the Federal Capital Territory.
Okay, I also know, I mean, that distinction was very important, because a lot of people always assume that because Abuja is, the capital, it's administered by the federal government as it is, but, they don't know that it also has its own revenue collection service. But what is the revenue used for? Because we know that the budget of the FCT is supposed to be done by the National Assembly. It's in the big budget submitted by the president. So what is the revenue used for?
I'm surprised you're asking this
question.
I
have to. You live in Abuja.
You live in Abuja. You drive on the roads that the minister has been constructing. I'm sure recently you've been seeing the street lights. You've heard about all the projects that have been commissioned, the hospitals, the schools, in the area councils, in the satellite towns. But let me just explain further. So yes, you are right that the FCT budget is part of the budget of the federal government, because the FCT is funded by the federal government. However, and this is one of the things that we must commend the President and the Honorable Minister of the FCT for. Upon the coming into power of this administration, one of the important things or steps that was taken was to actually extricate the FCT from the Treasury single account. So what you have is that the FCTIRS collects revenue that goes directly to the FCT, okay? And then which of course helps to fund that budget, because the budget has to be funded from somewhere. And all that the FCT gets is actually a percent, I think about 1% of the allocation to the federal government from the federal allocations. So the bulk of what you see in Abuja today is actually funded from the revenue that is collected by the FCT, IRS, and also other agencies, for example, like AGs, lands, and AEPB, and the rest. But essentially, the FCT has to fund its own activities from the revenue collected, just like you will in a state, just like Lagos gets, of course, VAT and federal allocations. But the bulk of what Lagos State generates also is from the revenue that it gets. So it's the same thing here. And to answer your question on a more serious note, Maupe, I think that most residents, I wouldn't say all, but most residents of the FCT will attest to the fact that in the last year and a half or two, they've seen significant improvement in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the look and feel of the city. They can see projects going on. You go to Buari, you go to Kuje, you go to Gwagwalada, you can see the impact. It's coming on. I wouldn't say everything has been done, but a lot of work is being done in terms of roads, bridges, even coming to Guzape here where your studio is located, you can see the construction going on. So I think that a lot of work is going on. And in that regard, we really need the support of FCT residents because like the minister always says, he can't print this money, he can't, mine it from the ground. So we have to collect it from residents of Abuja, and that's one of the things I'm here to talk about in the studio today.
Okay, so maybe we should get to it very quickly, but you mentioned infrastructure, the fact that infrastructure is, yes, we see the minister is commissioning, of course, as you said, I live in the FCT, yes. I drive on the roads, and I do see that in many places there have been, remarkable construction of infrastructure. However, there are some other areas that are still suffering. For instance, teachers in the FCT are always on strike, or have gone too frequently on strike as a result of. So there'll be questions as to what exactly are we properly prioritizing the revenue that we're earning, and why is it that we're building infrastructure but teachers, primary school teachers, are not being paid? You have insights into what exactly is happening there.
There's an education secretariat. There's a mandate secretary for education who I think will be better placed. But I will also say that there are historical issues. And government is a continuum, so we're not going to say that because, certain issues have been inherited, this administration should not solve it. But I can tell you that I'm aware the Honorable Minister has implemented the minimum wage in the FCT. So the least paid employee in the FCT today collects nothing less than 70,000 naira a month. This is also funded, as you know, from revenue. So there will be issues, there will be challenges. Labor issues will never go away. Even if you pay...
So the gradation has been done, has been effective?
Yes, of course, it has been. I think you can confirm that. So the issues would always be there. I mean, everywhere. I'm not as well paid as I would want to be paid. But you see, sometimes you also have to make sacrifices and understand that, it's a process. And I'm certain that the Honorable Minister will address all those issues. You can't solve all the problems in one day. But the reality is that we can see progress. Physically, we can see it. If you speak to workers also, they will tell you that things have improved. I know that a lot was done at Christmas, in terms of even providing some foodstuffs and all to workers. So it's a continuum. Government will continue to try. There will always be a time lag between what the employer or the employee wants and what the employer can provide. But if we work together, and part of it is also to pay your taxes, to pay your dues, to pay your levies, to pay your fees, then government will have all that money and then begin to solve all of the problems that are there.
So tell us what the challenges are, with collection of taxes in the FRS. Have you made it easier, seamless? Can I generate my tin from the comfort of my home? Can I pay my taxes from my house?
So there are a number of challenges, but I think for us, the most pressing challenge that we see today is really the lack of knowledge or information on the part of the residents, or the taxpayers, as you will. I think a lot of people are not well informed. We'll take responsibility for part of that, but also I think Nigerians have to then understand that taxes are an integral part of any developed society. And you go to places and people tell you, why should I pay my tax? But you can't ask that same question in the United States or in the UK or in Germany, because over time people have understood, they've imbibed that culture. So I think that's one of the major challenges. On our own part, yes, we need to build better infrastructure for collection of taxes. Yes, you can generate your TIN online. You can, even with your phone, USSD codes, we have that. We're partnering with the Joint Tax Board now. They're using the FCT as a pilot scheme. But also, I think that people's attitudes, essentially for us, is a major issue, because a lot of people earn significant revenues. And if you recall, last year we introduced what we call the High Net Worth HNI office. And we did that because one of the complaints is that, you are taxing workers because they have their salaries deducted, the taxes on their salaries deducted at source, but all of these people who are driving big cars, who are living in big houses, do not pay their tax. So we said, look, we'll focus on the high-earning individuals, and that is really one of the major challenges we have. You'll be surprised to find out that the people who earn the most are the ones who are most reluctant to pay taxes. But yes, again, of course, the city is very dispersed, so sometimes penetrating the satellite towns, going there, trying to explain to them, you know, why they need to comply and all of that is a bit of a challenge. We need to expand, we need more offices, we need more equipment, we need vehicles, we need staff, but all of that is a process. And I can tell you that the Honorable Minister has been very supportive. He's provided everything that we've asked for, and we're doing a lot. We're collaborating with the area councils, trying to get them to also sign on to, you know, the harmonization of taxes and levies.
Which is very important, because some people do feel very harassed, you know, driving their vehicles, and the area council tax collectors are trying to collect taxes from them.
Yes, we've done some work there, and I think you would agree that it has subsided, even though I wouldn't say it's been totally resolved. And this is one of the challenges of any federal system. So you have the federal government, you have states and the local governments. Local governments believe, rightly or wrongly, that they have some authority and some jurisdiction to collect tax and levy. And we don't have a problem. I mean, the laws are there. We have the Constitution, we have the Taxes and Levies Approved List for Collection Act. What we're saying is do it in a manner that, you know, the taxpayer or the resident, you don't have to drive on the road and then someone is standing in front of your vehicle. So we're working with that. We're investing in technology. What we're saying to the area councils is sign up to the portal. So if you want to collect a license fee or something from Maokbe, you know, issue her a demand note. She will pay in one place, and then we'll generate the receipt. And then when she's driving, you don't have to stop her to find out if she has paid, because we'll have a system where you can verify whether a vehicle, if the vehicle is registered, for example, with the Directorate of Road Traffic Services, you can find out if it's a commercial or private vehicle. And then once you find out, you can then impose the levy or dues or anything that that vehicle is supposed to pay online in real time, and once it's collected, you can verify. So there's a lot of work doing, but yes, I will agree that there are still some challenges, and it's part of why we need support. We need the FCT residents to all understand that at the end of the day, we live in this city, we work in this city, we earn our income from this city, so it is incumbent upon us to do everything that we can to improve, you know, the living conditions in the city.
Well, I'll just see if Ayo's found any cracks that we left out, Ayo.
Well, just one or two. He spoke to one of them very, very quickly. I'd like to just for him to expatiate on it. Mr. Ango, you spoke about the HNI initiative that you introduced to ensure wealthy residents pay their taxes. I'd like you to take us through how you are communicating with them. That's on the one hand. Just expatiate on that a little further. If they are getting the message, and how come, like maybe the minister himself cannot, you know, approach them. And secondly, perhaps a little more importantly, are political appointees and elected officials also required to file? Because we understand that that's one of the things that you've been asking for, filing of annual returns. Are political appointees and elected officials resident in Abuja also required to file their taxes?
Let me answer the last question first. So yes, political appointees, political office holders, elected or appointed, including the president, starting from the president to the vice president, Senate president, the honorable ministers, they are all required by law to file their tax returns and pay. So they have two sources of income. Most of them will do. They have their official emoluments, and then some of them may have, you know, rents or dividends or investment income, as it were, that they earn. So they are all required, and we've just sent out public notices against the 31st of March deadline. So the tax laws require every resident, and I repeat, every resident of the FCT, whether you're in employment, whether you're self-employed, whether you're a political appointee, I'm required to file my tax returns by the 31st of March 2025. If I fail to do so, or if any person fails to do so in the FCT, we have the powers to impose what we call a best of judgment assessment. We have the powers to impose penalties and interest, and we also have the powers to even take such persons to court. But we hope that we won't get there. And in terms of how we engage with our residents, we've been trying to, you know, reach out in terms of communicating with them. We held a roadshow about 2 weeks ago. We went around the entire city. We'll be holding others in the satellite towns. We've set up, you know, departments and units that essentially communicate on a daily basis. In each of our tax offices, we have a dedicated desk which is dedicated to taxpayer enlightenment and education. All of us are, focused on ensuring that we are accessible. We send out public notices, we publish our offices and locations. You can walk into any tax office at any time, ask for information, register for a tax identification number, pay your taxes, and even get taxpayer support. We can help you to prepare your returns. We can also help you to
filing tax returns. That
yes.
sounds a little novel. I mean, employees oftentimes, I'm speaking from the point of view of an employee now, just assume that generally it's been taken out of my salary. When am I supposed to file again?
So you're very right, Maope, that there's a knowledge gap in that regard, and I'm glad you've asked that question. As an employee, when you earn your income from your employer, he deducts taxes. But what the tax law says is that at the end of the year, 90 days within the start of this year, which ends by March 31st, you as Maope, you may have a house, you inherited it, or your husband gave you, or you got a gift. You may have dividends, you bought shares in some companies. You may have some other sources of income. So what the law mandates you to do is to aggregate all of that, including what you've earned from your employer. So all of that is aggregated. What has been paid by deduction from your employer will be taken out. But if, for example, you have dividends you declared, we'll run it through the tax table. If there's an additional income, then you are supposed to pay. And that's the norm everywhere in every jurisdiction. That's what we call direct assessment.
Okay.
So it's both for people in employment and those not in employment.
Mr. Ango, we're totally out of time. I certainly would have loved to take you up a little more. We hope that you can come again before the 31st of March. But thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. He's the Acting Executive Chairman, FCT Internal Revenue Service. Well, that's where we leave the program this beautiful Thursday morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.